Hello mates, and welcome to our first 2024 edition of the Zonă Report. And on that note, I suppose it would be appropriate to take this opportunity to wish you a fabulous new year full of achievements, of STEAM achievements, and last but not least, hopes that the new year will be less of a disaster when it comes to the gaming and tech industry in general, unlike the year that just passed. But 2023 is a thing of the past, and the beginning of the new year comes with good news and some not so good news. As usual, a little bit of everything, I suppose. So let's get down to it as usual. To kick things off, we have some news from Microsoft about the long-awaited sequel to Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, a game released no less than 7 years ago. But it looks like we won't have to wait much longer, as Microsoft recently announced the imminent release of Senua's saga Hellblade II, which should launch on May 21st, to be more precise. Well, of course, that's if everything goes according to plan. But with their never-ending budget, we don't expect things to go off the rails too much, unless after a night of heavy drinking in a bar on the outskirts of Xbox Game Studios headquarters, the parent company of Ninja Theory decides to close the shutter on this developer, as they have done in the past with other major studios with great potential. Which shouldn't be too hard to believe after all, because very recently Microsoft's video game division laid off no fewer than 1900 employees overnight. Does anyone remember Lionhead Studios? Yeah, the developer that bought us the Fable series. It doesn't exist anymore, of course. But let's get back to Hellblade 2 for now. That's what the opening thread was about after all. Until recently, Ninja Theory has kept details about Hellblade 2's story mostly under wraps. But now that we have an official announced release date that is not too far off, we learn that since the first game, Senua has made peace with her past and is no longer fearful of the visions and voices inside her head. That's great news, but the downside is that our Celtic warrior still suffers from psychosis, which will definitely keep things interesting for sure. In the sequel, Senua returns in the brutal journey of survival to the harsh and unwelcoming Viking Iceland. Intent on saving those who have fallen victim to the horrors of tyranny, Senua faces a battle on two fronts, being forced to welcome the darkness within and without. The game will be powered by Unreal Engine 5, which is equally terrifying and thrilling. It will look really cool for sure, but how will it be optimized remains to be seen. In other fresh from the oven news, Frostpunk II finally gets an official gameplay trailer, giving a glimpse at the game's graphics, mechanics, and the new deadly threat that the players will have to face to survive in this icy wasteland. Human nature and insatiable thirst for power. Well, that's wonderful, as if the volcanic winter wasn't enough of a challenge. Additionally, players will have to ensure that all parts of the city work in unison with each other like cogs of a giant resource-hungry machine, and negotiate between different factions and their ideas for the future. Because your ideas of a less frozen future aren't good enough for humanity, so we have factions now to point you in more or less the right direction. At the moment, the game doesn't have an official release date, although we have hints from the developers of a release sometime during the first half of 2024. Time will tell, I suppose, and we look forward to building our cities on the frozen crust of the harshy, icy wasteland which was once called Earth, and to forge more or less ethical laws, of course. Let's not forget about that. In other news, if you've ever wondered, and I'm sure you have at least once by now, if not every time, where your hard-earned money invested in World of Tanks goes, we finally have an answer to that question. In fact, we had the answer to this question for a long time, but now it has materialized. Meet Project CW, or Project Cold War, an early prototype of a game by Wargaming. A game that, according to Wargaming, will revolutionize the vehicle combat genre with dynamic gameplay that merges precise gunplay, unique hero abilities, and team-based mechanics. I don't know about you guys, but all these promises and mechanics seems very familiar to me. Wasn't that one of the main goals of World of Tanks, especially team-based team play? Which we know a little bit about team play and how well it actually works in games developed by Wargaming. Project CW emphasizes fast-paced battles and an intuitive experience that's accessible yet deeply engaging for enthusiasts. Or so they say. Because fast-paced battles and accessible to anyone are two things too common in, let's say, another game with and about tanks we know. Now, don't get me wrong here, we're excited that Wargaming is experimenting with something they say anything is new, but in fact the reality is completely different from our point of view. For years it seemed that World of Tanks has been and is a testing ground, and now we know why. You can be sure that all the mechanics, more or less thought out, created to rob you of as much time and money as possible, implemented and encountered in other gaming branded products, will feel at home in this new project. But let's just hope we have at least as many boxes to buy and gates to open as before, if not more. Otherwise it won't have the charm of a game produced by Wargaming, and that will be a sad day in the gaming industry. Moving on to the hardware sector now, because we couldn't have a Zonă report without mentioning Nvidia at least once, for better or for worse. Nvidia recently relaunched the 40 series graphics cards, sticking the super label on them and calling it a hardware refresh. If memory serves, the 40 series GPU were not supposed to have a super variant, or so they told us a while back. But it seems they have changed their minds and couldn't have passed the opportunity to squeeze a few more dollars of our wallets by relaunching the 40 series as it should have been released in the first place. To differentiate it from the non-super variants, the improvements basically come from the extra CUDA cores, which directly translates into extra performance, about 50 to 20% more depending on the scenario. Launch prices are similar if not identical to the non-super variants, largely due to the fact that the latter has recently undergone a price drop. Thus, an RTX 4070 Super will have an MSRP of about $599, while the RTX 4070 has dropped to $549. A price difference that makes the choice somewhat easy if you're looking to buy a new GPU from the green team. In short, skip the non-super and spend the extra $50. You will definitely feel a lot more super knowing that you made the right super choice. Even if for the next 6 months of your life you will be on a diet of super tea with super toasted bread until you pay off your loan. At which point other GPUs will most likely be released and the super cycle begins again. And with this little bit of news, I think we're pretty much done here with this edition of the Zonă report. Plus, I have to prepare for another 8-hour session of Baldur's Gate 3. Because that's what we've been doing here at the office for a good few months now. Playing Baldur's Gate 3 until we pass out. What else could you do when you've aged 23 years waiting for this game to launch? And I'm not even sure I'll catch the 4th game in this series at this rate, which gives me serious problems to think about. So see you soon on our next Zonă report, and until next time, stay safe, take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and last but not least, your wallets. This is our recommendations for you as usual. Signing off.